We all know there's a problem. We all know that there's something wrong in this world that we live in. Whether you're from a religious background, maybe you're a Christian, or whether you're not from a religious background at all, we know that there's a problem. We know that there's something not right in this world. You don't have to take my word for it. I mean, look around you. We are in the middle of a global pandemic. 2020 has been a year of unknown. For many of us, for fear, frustration. For many of us, it would have been a sad year because we have lost a loved one. With the toll this pandemic is having on the NHS, on mental health, on our schools and our universities and the economy, it's just crazy. I mean, look around you. There is death, there is disease, there is decay, there is war, there is murder, there is injustice, there is corruption, there is modern day slavery, racism, climate issues. We all know that there is a problem in this world. The question is this: why do these problems exist? Where did these problems come from? Where did it begin? The world we live in was not always like this. It was beautiful, there was peace. You see, in the Bible, in the first book of the Bible, in the book of Genesis, we read of a beautiful world. There was life, there was peace, there was harmony. The Garden of Eden. A perfect world. But sadly, it didn't stay that way for long. Sin penetrated, evil penetrated into this world. Sin and evil penetrated the hearts of the first man and woman, Adam and Eve. Rather than obeying God, their wonderful Creator, they disobey Him. They run away from Him. They choose to rebel against Him. They want to be like Him in place of power. And ever since, the world has never been the same. Instead of life, death reigns. Instead of harmony, chaos reigns. Think of it like this. What would be the consequence if I drove at 100 miles per hour on the motorway? Most likely I'll get a speeding ticket. What would be the consequence if I tried and assassinate the Prime Minister of Great Britain, of the UK? Most likely life imprisonment. Now, what would be the consequence of wrecking a beautiful world that God has made? What would be the consequence of usurping His authority, of rebelling against Him, of disobeying Him? The Bible says, death, an existence away from the source of life, which is no life at all. A few years ago, we got a Christmas tree, and my children had a great time decorating it. But come January, it was time for the Christmas tree to say goodbye. So I put the Christmas tree back in our garden. After a few days, a few weeks, the Christmas tree looked alive, green, but I know that it has been cut off from the source. Maybe we're like a Christmas tree. We long for that connection with the source of life. Now, back in the Garden of Eden, after Adam and Eve, the first human, rebelled against God, they were sent away from the garden, away from the source of life, away from God Himself. But not without hope, not without a promise. In the midst of this death and decay, in the midst of this rebellion, God promises them, not just for them, but for all of humanity, that He will send someone who will undo all the mess, who will bring back life, who will bring back hope, who will come and restore the world as it was always meant to be, who will reconnect us back to the source of life itself, who will lead us back to God Himself. You see, in Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, we read of a promised king. A king who will come and defeat evil, darkness, death once and for all. This king is God's Son, Jesus Christ. The promised king that was promised at the beginning of time came to be with us. He became one of us on the first day, on the first Christmas day. He became one of us. In our world that is broken and divided and fractured, He came. In a world where death and evil reigned, He came to bring hope, life, and light. This promised King promises you to never leave you or abandon you. The King wants you to be part of His family, His global family. This Christmas, Jesus, the promised King, invites you to His kingdom. He promised you and me to give life, a life connecting us back to the source of life, a life that comes from knowing Jesus Himself, the life.